I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus, I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus, I was evil. I never...
Episode 26 of the Reckless Musecast. And yeah, this is going to be kind of a bummer of an episode.
It is, and not in the way that I think maybe some people are expecting, because here's what I'm not gonna do. I'm not gonna do on this episode. I'm not gonna go off about how our government are complete hypocrites, and how we're currently involved in a genocide in Yemen, and how we have been Russia many times in the near history, and we didn't face shit for any of that. So I'm not going to talk about those things. Instead, and I'll do a little throat clearing here. Actually, my throat's feeling kind of shitty. That's why I have my tea, because I'm a little sick boy right now. But, I mean, we have to say, like, yeah, Putin's a fucking monster.
Yeah.
Okay? He's evil. Yeah. He sucks. Innocent people are dying. All that fucking sucks. But this is not a politics podcast. It's art-centered, censorship, that kind of stuff. So in those regards, what is happening to Russian people outside of Russia, which has a huge diaspora in the US, in other parts of Europe, in Canada, is absolutely fucking insane. It's nothing but xenophobia.
Yeah.
And it's horrific, and it's coming from all different types of people. I think if we saw this going on against, and I'm sure it did go on against, like, Afghanis and Iraqis when we were the ones at war in those countries.
Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't stand for this. And yes, there is this whole I kind of little bit see this, like, well, people care so much about this because it's white people fighting white people. And, well, maybe that's part of it, but it's also like a sovereign country fighting a sovereign country, which doesn't happen very often. Like, most of the shit are rebel groups and factions and extremists and all that. Like, this is just a country invading another country, which does not happen very often at all, especially in Europe. So all that being said, what is going on is insane. And I know we both compiled a list. Yeah. It does not surprise me, though, what is happening, because, the term is so kind of insipid now and trite and, like, but it's cancel culture. And it's literally canceling culture, because we're not talking about, like, I could give a fuck about some Russian oligarch getting his yachts taken away. That's not what I care. I don't give a fuck about them. I care about, like, musicians and artists and athletes just being removed from their jobs and from their roles because of their nationality.
Yeah.
That's insane. And they even come out and disavow Putin and what's happened, and it's not enough, which goes back to our theme of never apologize. And I know I'm kind of talking broad strokes right now, so let's get into some examples, because I compiled a list of at least 7 or 8, or maybe a little less than that. There's some mixed, but, like, this scratches the surface. What's going on? This is just stuff that's reported and made the news.
And just like in the last week too. Like, it's not gonna be going on for months. This just happened, like, the last week
happened. So. And do you want to start with the one that you saw that I ended up seeing also, but you brought to my attention? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah, let's see. The one that I brought up that I found was the Cardiff Philharmonic removes Tchaikovsky from a program in light of Russian invasion of Ukraine. This is in classicalmusic.com.
Okay.
This is insane. So Peter Tchaikovsky, who's a famous classical composer, mostly during the 1800s. There was going to be an all Tchaikovsky program coming up on the 18th of March. And they decided to get rid of it. They're not going to be, they're going to be replacing Tchaikovsky pieces with Dvorak, Symphony No. 8, and John Williams's The Cowboy's Overture. I mean, this is stupid. So here's the thing about the 1812 overture. It was written to commemorate the successful Russian defense against Napoleon's invasion in 1812. And then his other piece, that was one of the other pieces that was going to be performed there, was the 1876 March to Slav, which celebrated Russia's involvement in the Serbian-Ottoman War. So I can understand a little bit of the sensitivity around, like, oh, these pieces, like they're celebrating. It's not just that they're celebrating Russian culture; they're celebrating Russia's involvement with war.
Can I just ask something?
Sure. Yeah.
Do you think anyone fucking knows that?
Yeah, I know. Nobody's gonna care. Yeah.
Like, do you think like people know that this symphony or whatever it is had to do with the Serbian Ottoman War?
Yeah,
like, no, they're gonna go listen to beautiful music.
Right.
So, like, I'm sorry, but it's just I just don't get what one thing has to do with the other.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's frustrating that it's not like the symphony was called Putin's the greatest president in the world, or anything like that. It was like this is music from 150 years ago. Like, there's no reason.
Putin's the great. That's going to be the title of this episode. Putin is the greatest president. It's so. Is there more you want? Because they literally. So Tchaikovsky's been dead for how long? 150 years. Like, yeah, and no one is going there, like, wrapping themselves in the Russian flag, which was like. That was a totally different Russia. That was pre-Soviet Russia. Yeah. That was like a totally different thing to go, they're going to listen to beautiful music. This was Cardiff, right? So this is in Wales. Yeah. And it's this, to kind of lay a foundation here, to go into this. This is what happens when everything is globalized and something happens, right? And I kind of wanted. I'm gonna do a verbal meme here. I know. Yeah. I'm a big verbal meme guy, and I thought of this. I actually haven't made this meme, but it's like in Game of Thrones. There's this scene where Ned Stark is denouncing the Mountain, and he's taking away his titles and his lands and all of that. And he says, "I denounce him." And I just want to make a meme where it's like something happens. Corporations, I denounce them. Like that's all they do. They just denounce and they take away. And this is, you saw it with the truckers in Canada, and you saw it with different types of activist groups, and they get their PayPal or bank accounts or whatever it is. Like, this is what fucking happens. This is the culture you set up, where everyone thinks something occurs halfway across the globe, and some orchestra in Wales is canceling a concert. Like, what the fuck? And it's so selective, right? Like, it has not. You don't see them canceling American shit, even though we're drone striking children in Afghanistan. Where's the boycott against American culture? It's our biggest export, is our culture, our culture and drone strikes, to be honest. That's like, and I'm not anti. I love my country because of the people and the liberties that we have, but our government are fucking monsters too. And it's just like, and ours are actually like, and to be honest, I don't shoot myself in the foot here, but the American people actually have more say in who their leaders are, because we vote for them. So when our leaders fuck up, in a way, about half the country, more or less, chose those leaders. Unlike Russia, where Putin's been in power since like the late 90s, and the Russian people, they don't have any say about Putin. Right. There's some protests going on, but they can end up in the fucking gulag or whatever it is now. So it's just really gross. So anyway, so this is what happens when you think that you always have to make a stand for something. You have cookie companies coming out about the Georgia voting rights or something. And this is what happens. So another example, and we'll stay here with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra cancels Russian pianist performance. A 20-year-old named Alexander Malofeev. This is from CBC News. I don't know exactly what that is. I guess a Canadian news organization. Right here, so. Malofeev has condemned the Russian invasion on social media. Right, that's what it says, and yet it just doesn't matter.
Right.
Like it's not like he's some big Putin supporter and he's going out there with a T-shirt of Putin on and saying, you know, the Russian people will prevail. And I don't think there's any of that going on here either.
Right. Yeah.
It's a complicated situation, but
he's denounced Putin. So I mean,
exactly, it doesn't matter though. That's the thing.
Exactly.
It's just about your identity. It's not about the content of your character. It's not about your thoughts or your beliefs or anything like that. Not even that those things should matter sometimes, because you know, we should have freedom of speech. I know they're extreme situations, but like he's come out, denounced the war, denounced his own leader, which could fucking cause him problems in the future. Who knows? You're putting his well-being at risk, and still they fucking cancel him.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's I mean, this is, it reminds me so much of like the McCarthyism of the 50s and the whole like you know, like the Hollywood blacklist. I think, you know, I'm not a communist, but I also think that if somebody identifies as a communist, they shouldn't lose their job. They shouldn't be shamed publicly in front of people for having a certain set of political views. No, it's phenomenally stupid.
I mean, it's ironic because again, we're dealing with Russians. I mean, in a way, they're not communists at all. It just shows, like, there were polls also about like, what do you think Russia is? And like majorities of Americans still think they're communists. Like they could not be farther from communists. Yeah. Like they're an oligarchy. They're a petrol state with the wealth completely, you know, centered at the top. And the people do not have. No, anyway, I don't want to get into it. So that's an example. Another example. The first,
real quick, I just want to bring up just because you and I were commenting on this. Another friend of ours from a friend of the podcast, David Cray. He put out a great tweet today about this, and I think it's kind of like a good preamble for all of this. But what he says is, stop banning Russian people and Russian culture. This is Putin's war. He is an ex-KGB relic of the Cold War, an authoritarian, totalitarian tough guy who oppresses the Russian people and culture, pushing an outdated, dumb Soviet imperial idea of Russia owning its neighbors. And I think that sums up perfectly
also
this whole thing.
Yes. And also, from a strategic standpoint, right? Like, what we're supposed to be, and I mean this, you know, I do believe this in a way, but we're supposed to be like the enlightened West, right? We're supposed to be welcoming, as long as you know, adhere to a pretty broad set of values. But within that range, there's a lot of diversity, and we're supposed to be accepting and welcoming. So if you're in places like Wales and Montreal, and we're going to get into American examples too, New York City, and the Americans are threatening you. And I want to get into one also where this is largely coming from, at least from one account, these threats at a restaurant are coming from largely Americans and British people, right? These aren't even coming. I mean, they might be Ukrainian American, I don't know, but that's an American. That's what America is. It's a big melting pot. So when you start attacking a group of people for their identity, and they came to your country for a better life, for freedom, they're going to turn around and go, wait a minute, those people over there, as in the Russians, my homeland, Putin, they respect me. They want to support me. They want me to be a human, right? I'm going to go back to them. And this is what fucking like creates extremists. Like, do you know how many Muslims throughout the Middle East were like totally moderate, just people who wanted their, like, to what we all want, right? And then you drone strike their village, and then they go, you know what? Fuck that. Like they all know a brother who died, or a father, or a cousin, and it radicalizes people. And I'm not saying that this is the same. I'm not saying that like threatening a Russian restaurant is the same as drone striking a village in Pakistan. But like, how could this help? Like, what could this possibly do to help?
Right.
Like, we're supposed to be fucking beyond that. And if like, it's only going to make people say, well, why the fuck did I come here? You know, why this isn't, I left my country to come here. And I just don't get the strategy behind it. I don't get how it's being like largely accepted by a lot. You know, these are places like Vancouver and New York. These are supposed to be very liberal, progressive places. Right. And if this was happening, I'll tell you what, if you saw the Yemeni bodegas, lots of bodegas in New York City are owned by Yemenis. if you saw that going on, if anything, they should be the ones fucking attacking us.
Yeah.
But if you saw this going on, like the left-wing media would not stand for it.
Right.
So, let's get into another example here.
Yeah.
This was one of the first ones I saw because this was 3. Okay, this was updated today, so I don't know exactly when it was, but so this is the Glasgow Film Festival removes Russian films from the lineup due to ongoing conflict. Like, I don't think this was Triumph of the Will for Russia edition either.
Yeah.
I didn't look into that, so we can see. I don't think basically they were not canceled or removed for the content of the film, but for the identity of the filmmakers.
Yes.
Which is what we're against.
Yes.
Like, I'm against that when it's promoting something because of the identity, like not even looking at the content and just going, oh, well, this is a BIPOC plus gender queer filmmaker. It's like, okay, but is the movie any good? I'm against it for that.
Yeah.
When they promote that, I'm also against it when you just don't play the movie because it's BIPOC plus gender queer or it's a Russian, right?
Right.
And so again, like, what is that? Like, do they think that I mean, and this goes back to our country too, where I'm open about I shouldn't be so much, but I'm open about being an Italian American, and there's a reason like a lot of Italian Americans don't speak Italian anymore, didn't get passed down through the generations because during World War II there were signs that said, ironically, speak American instead of speak English, but they didn't want you speaking your language. Same with German, same with the Japanese, and you were looked at as an enemy, and that was wrong. Like, it was wrong that we rounded up Japanese people and put them in camps. It was wrong that Germans and Italian, like there was I was in Cincinnati, and I'm going to go off a tangent here, but I was in Cincinnati, and there was like basically a pogrom against Germans. I saw a big sign for it, and Ohio is a huge German population, and based on the same kind of xenophobic shit. Yeah. So it never leads anywhere good. So that's another example. Is like
real quick, I just want to read their statement. This is the Glasgow Film Festival. So they went on Twitter and they said, in light of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia and in response to plea from the Ukrainian Film Academy today, on behalf of the Society of Ukrainian Film Professionals and Culture Figures, Glasgow Film Festival has decided to withdraw the 2 Russian titles, which are No Looking Back and The Execution, from our 2022 program. This decision is not a reflection on the views or opinions of the makers of these titles. We just believe that it would be inappropriate to proceed as normal with these screenings in the current circumstances. Again, like it has like these are not pro-Putin films. They're just made by Russian artists. By artists who happen to be Russian.
I clicked out of it. Did it say that? Was there any sort of objection from any Ukrainian groups, or was it just like, well, for them, even though did they even call for this?
Most of the comments seem to be positive, or at least seem to be in favor of it. So one commenter says, "Good decision. Sad for the filmmakers, though."
No. You just read like basically. I don't know. Let me just pull it up. Or, like, on behalf of Ukrainian groups or something. Like, did they just kind of?
Oh yeah. On behalf of the society, in response to plea from the Ukrainian Film Academy.
Oh, okay. So the Ukrainian Film Academy. Well, I don't know. So what? Like, I don't know. The Ukrainian Film Academy in Ukraine or in Glasgow? Like, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that take a stand. It's like, okay, we're not silencing artists here. We're not silencing filmmakers. Submit your films and we'll play your films. Like, all right. Where this one hits close to home. International Cat Federation bans Russian felines from competitions.
I'm fine with that.
This makes no fucking sense. They're literally animals. Like, and I thought at first it was like they were banning Russian people who were I guess submitting their cats, whatever it is. And it's not that. It's cat breeds. Like, this sounds like it would be a parody. Like, this sound like parody is dead. Satire is dead because life is more satirical than, and like, They're banning cat breeds right here, starting this week. No cat bred in Russia can be imported or registered. Pedigree book outside Russia. No cat belong to exhibitors living in Russia. Okay, so that's about the people, but it's also just about like the cats coming from Russia. What if you're not like if you're a non-Russian even living in Russia breeding cats? Like the cat is Russian.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so much of this is grandstanding. I mean, it's all grandstanding.
That's what it is. It's all grandstanding.
None of these organizations, as far as I can tell, have like started fundraisers to help Ukrainian refugees or anything like that. No, it's simply we stand with you, and
yeah,
that's
it's a way to sell shit. It's a way to sell banners and patches and bumper stickers and all this stuff. Like, what does that mean? We stand like, and I don't mean that. Look, there's atrocities going on. This is fucking horrible, right? This is really, really, really shitty. At the same time, it's also really shitty to capitalize on a situation like this for your own. That's what this is. That's what we're criticizing. We are no way like Ukrainians are hurting. Ukraine is a I don't know these terms they use anymore. Second world country. I don't know if it's considered a first world country. It's ex-Soviet. That's kind of considered the second world. So it's poor. It's like a poor country overall for Europe. Poor economically, not culturally. People get mad at that. Very rich cultural country, like all countries.
Yeah.
But so I say that to say that means they have a lot of people live all over the world because people leave countries like that to make money and to start a new life and either stay there or to send money home, whatever it is. So like people are hurting. There are Ukrainian populations all over. I brought it up before. There's an apartment complex across the street from my high school that we call Little Moscow. It was all Ukrainians. We didn't know that. That was our fault and they didn't correct us. Say, no, we're not Russians. We're Ukrainians. It wasn't called Little Kiev. It was called Little Moscow. And it was tons of Ukrainian. They were all like first generation Ukrainian kids. So I get that. I get that you're hurting. It's horrible. I hope if I had a magic wand, I would stop it instantly. And it's fucking, it's disgusting. But it's also disgusting that people like all these companies and all these groups and institutions, like you said, grandstand and just make it for their benefit so that they can, it's social credit basically, they can say we put up the black box, we put up the gay flag banner, we did the Women's Day thing, and we did the I Stand With Ukraine, and it loses any sort of authenticity. And at the end it also hurts people who have nothing to do with the invasion. The soldiers, it's going to be hard to defend Russian soldiers here, but report after report comes out of them like being like, we had no fucking idea. We had no idea what we were doing here. One, we were sold as a peacekeeping mission for a couple breakaway provinces or whatever that are overwhelmingly Russian, and all that goes back, generations and generations of political history that I'm not going to go into, but they don't even fucking know. And if you can't just stop, you get shot in the head. It's desertion. So, like usual, the powerful people, the people like Putin and politicians and oligarchs and are rich, just like, they are responsible for all these fucking horrors. Another example, the FIFA soccer team. I mean, I should say not the national soccer team. FIFA banned them from the World Cup.
Jeez.
I guess, like, I don't know what they have anything to do with it, but I guess like it symbolizes Russia. Our teams weren't banned from everything when we killed 3 million people in Iraq or whatever it was. I don't know if it was that many. Don't quote me on that. Maybe 300,000, something like that. But
I am quoting you. No.
Okay. That one I'm not gonna like. That's a national team. Fine, whatever. Like it's still, I still think it's dumb, but fine. Another. So here's, so this is actually, is this WAPO? Sorry, let me pull it up. No, it's the New York Post. I have a WAPO one also. Russian musicians don't deserve cancellation for Putin's crimes. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. They would make the stance. Oh yeah, and at the same time, today we did ban Russian oil, right? But
Yeah.
for a while, way after canceling all these artists and things, we were still buying Russian oil, which obviously is going to help very rich people over there. And meanwhile, we're getting rid of concert pianists. But here, let's see.
I have an example here.
Well, this go ahead.
This is Valery Gergiev. This is another classical music one. The snooty classical music community is being a bunch of dicks right now. He's facing major criticism and removal from the podium following the Russian invasion of Ukraine due to his longstanding support of Russia's President Vladimir Putin. So he's got ties to Putin. But as far as I know, he has not made any statements recently about what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. He's basically been given an ultimatum where they said the Opera House has also stated that Gergiev will be dropped from his upcoming appearance on March 5th if he did not speak out against the Russian regime. The collaboration will be over, said Milan's mayor Giuseppe Sala, who is the president of La Scala. Yeah, this is insane. It's.
I mean, that's that's like loyalty oath type shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's tricky if he's like, what is he, a pianist? Sorry.
This is a conductor.
A conductor.
Yeah. He's been dropped by his management, and he's been dismissed from other major festivals, as well as upcoming concerts. So that he's actually getting legitimately canceled.
It disturbs me.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's guilt by association now.
Yes.
I mean, he's associated with Putin. So is kind of everyone who's famous, like who's Russian and famous, and a lot of it's lip service because he's not even the president of the United States. He's an autocrat.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know about that one as much because I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I don't like it. My knee-jerk reaction is to say if he's been like vocal, I guess what is that? But and if he's promoting the invasion, they can say, well, we're not gonna have you go on our stage and have those views, but that still like scares me. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. As far as I know, he's been quiet. He just hasn't said anything. So this is kind of like a your silence is deafening sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just says that he's been a supporter of Putin since they met in 1992. But other than that, I don't know what else. Like what exactly his ties are to Putin, or how close his loyalty is to him. If it was something where he's actually saying like, I'm fully on Putin's side, I still wouldn't be comfortable with it, but I can at least understand the organization saying, we don't feel comfortable being associated with you on this.
But that I get more, but like for instance, so this one I brought up, it has a singer, opera singer, Anna Netrebko. So she was awarded the People's Artist of Russia honor. And they're shaking hands or whatever, and she's smiling at him. But it's like, is that an association? Like if you're in a picture with it? I mean, every NFL team or college football team, or like they meet the president. They, what are you gonna do? Not and again, you can even opt out of that, I'm sure. Like I'm sure LeBron James wouldn't have gone to meet Trump, right? And I think teams have done that, or players have done that. Like, and that's an American president where you vote and you don't, and you have freedom of speech and things like that. Like this is Russia. Like you're gonna snub Vladimir Putin if you win a Russian award. She was giving a Russian award, and this person is, by the way, I didn't say who this is. So, okay, they're kind of all over this place. Well, anyway, it says she's no supporter of the war in Ukraine, so she has come out, and she's still been canceled. The Met general manager, right? So sorry, they just list like a lot of people in this. Then there's the conductor. Did you say Gergiev?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they touch on him. The Carnegie Hall announced the day before. Right, the Vienna Philharmonic. Okay, so and Carnegie Hall, which is I just walked past it, last weekend, and there was the Russian tea room. I walked right past that too, and I was wondering, I'm like, oh fuck, like are they catching shit? Well, yeah, they are, and they have a big sign, or I can't remember if it's a sign or a banner or something that's like pro-Ukraine, right? I don't even think the owners of the Russian tea room are Russian, and they're still catching tons of flack. So let me see. So I have some notes here on that. So the Russian tea room right next door to Carnegie Hall. And so they have been receiving threats. This is from by the way, the New York Post article. Russian musicians don't deserve cancellation for Putin's crimes. And it doesn't matter. Like they can publicly come out, silence. First of all, and I think this whole silence is violence mantra that has pervaded social media, like you see what that's doing now, because people actually believe, and corporations and companies, institutions actually believe, if they're silent, then they're supporting whatever the other people are, the other groups are speaking out against.
Right.
And everyone has, that's why it's the same. It's a black box thing on Instagram during the Black Lives Matter thing, like which I did not post. I thought that was fucking stupid. And I know people were like, I asked a friend who's like very much involved in Black Lives Matter and very much part of that whole scene. A close friend of mine, he's like, no, that's dumb. Like we don't, I don't care about that. Like it's just grandstanding. It's just to show social credit. So when they go back and they try and cancel you, they look, did you post the black box? And you know what? It doesn't fucking matter. I'd rather stand up for what I believe, because you could post, you could put any banner, you could say it doesn't matter. If they want to find a way to cancel you, whatever that means, take down whatever way you want, they will do it. The crits will do it. So the Russian tea room can put up the flag. They can say we're standing with Ukraine. All this stuff, it doesn't fucking matter. They still get death threats. A restaurant in, excuse me, I'm gonna skip one. A community theater in Vancouver, community fucking theater in Vancouver, was splattered with blue and yellow paint. Let's see why. I guess it's run by Russians. But the attack against the property occurred even though the theater's operators have claimed to support Ukraine against the Russian president. I know this is not loading. Sorry about that. But that one is like really, that's more than just a phone call, which obviously not good either. But like they splattered all over the doors of it, blue and yellow paint. And again, I hope, by the way, there's a lot of misinformation going on. Some of it is disinformation too. That's coming from probably all sides. I very much expect that from Russians. You're seeing it in our own media and in the Ukrainian media. A lot of the shit, the ghost of Kiev is untrue. The island that told the Russians to fuck off is untrue, or at least the fact that they died. I don't know if they told them to fuck off, but it's then that they died valiantly. No, they surrendered, which I would have done too, right? But like that was reported. Then there's this argument going back and forth about, well, what's more important right now, the myth or the truth of it? I get that, but this is also coming off a campaign of over 2 years or 2 years or so of battling misinformation, disinformation. It's like, no, it's not true. You're totally fine with spreading misinformation, disinformation when it supports what you like. It's only when it comes, comes from the other side that you even label it that. So
there's something there's a quote here I want to highlight. This is in regards to the Alexander Alafiev, the young pianist who's going to perform in Montreal. There's a quote here from the orchestra saying, we continue, however, to believe in the importance of maintaining relationships with artists of all nationalities who embrace messages of peace and hope. We look forward to welcoming this exceptional artist when the context allows it. It's like, oh, fuck off. Like there's no like appropriate context for beautiful music. It's just there's always an appropriate context for beautiful music. It's whenever. There's no like, yeah, you're great and we're thrilled that you're you're speaking out against this, but yeah, it's still not good enough. This isn't the right time. It's like, what are you talking about? It's just music. This is phenomenally stupid. And then the other quote here, this is from a violinist with the Montreal Orchestra, Catherine Paliga, was among those refusing to play with the Russian. Her partner has family in Ukraine. I don't think I can manage, Paliga said. With the fee that the OSM is paying him, the money will be returning to Russia no matter what. But it's not going to Putin. It's just going to an artist who happens to be from Russia.
Yeah. Why?
I refuse to play with him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, war is hell. We hear that all the time. And it's like people's brains break when something like this happens.
Yeah.
Not downplaying any of it at all. I couldn't imagine being in those Ukrainian situations. But it's like all of the lessons that we try and teach each other and the values and the morals that we have just kind of go out the window the second there's like a controversy affects you. And I don't know, maybe if I was Ukrainian, I feel different, but like I'm trying to think of other examples when this would happen. Yeah, there's definitely anti-Muslim or Middle Eastern sentiment in the US after 9/11, of course.
Yeah.
Some of that was so bad that people targeted they would target like Sikhs because they saw people in turbans.
Yeah. I mean, it's like saying I refuse to work with the Mexican because, the company will pay him and therefore that money will be funding cartels. And it's sort of like,
that's a good analogy. And I don't know. I it's just beyond reason.
Yeah.
Like the leaps, the logical leaps that they make, like playing in an orchestra. And what country is this? Italy?
Oh, this is in Montreal.
Oh, so Montreal. This was that one. Okay. Yeah. Like in Canada, to a musician that this person assumes will go back to Russia, which would, even if it did, it would probably go to a family.
Yeah.
Somehow that ends up in like Putin's war coffers. That's so.
It's like 6 degrees of problematicness. It's like we got to find the connection to how it will benefit something that I don't like.
Like, don't you think you have that, fine, but what about just like, you don't think that taking away the opportunity and the money and that from like this person matters more? Like that is so much more direct. Like you can see it right there.
Right.
I don't know. I find that very disturbing.
Yeah.
I want to get back to, so in Prague, this one very much disturbed me because this gets back to kind of that compelled speech concept you had brought up, the loyalty oath type thing.
Yeah.
This is a restaurant in the Zizkov district of Prague, which is a very cool district. I've been there. Prague's a very cool city. And it says, this is by a restaurateur. He says, before I start paying attention to you, you must first state that Putin and Lukashenko are mass murderers. Then you apologize for them and you'll show remorse. Only then will you be allowed to order. Like, what the fuck? And there's a lot of animosity there. I know, I guess going back as Czechia was part of Soviet Union, but I mean, like, these aren't even the same people.
Yeah.
Like, these are probably just Russian, probably poor Russian. I mean, if they're going to Prague for a better, life, like Prague still is like Central Europe, but it's not Germany, it's not France, it's not the UK, right? This isn't like one of the real rich countries. And you're not going to let them order until they basically make a loyalty oath or denouncing their leader. Like, imagine, and I try and bring this back to, like, I can't, what if I was in, I don't know, Beirut or Istanbul? I've been to Istanbul and they were like, they made some degree thing. Let's assume that they were a Muslim. And it's like, well, you have to denounce George Bush and Barack Obama for the wars in the Middle East and the drone strikes and the killings of innocent Muslims, or else you can't order. And I'd be like, well, I agree with you on the fact that, you know, they're monsters too and are war criminals.
Yeah.
But I have to denounce them publicly to order food.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. That's so fucking crazy to me to think. Like, I
Yeah.
can't think of a better example. Maybe there's one out there. But that's so fucking crazy to me to think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, this is one restaurant in Prague, but like this is just, first of all, what's being reported.
Yeah.
This is all, and again, I am assuming all this is true. Some of this may not be true, right? Because unfortunately, that's the world we live in right now. But assuming all of this is true, like this is just scratching the surface of probably what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I know shit's going. There are parts of New York City that like speak Russian, like where there are parts of LA or San Antonio or you know parts of Texas that like they speak Spanish.
Yeah.
English is the second language. There are parts of New York where that's Russian in southern Brooklyn. So like I know there's shit going on there, and where people are being like attacked or verbally attacked, and it's just like, and it is a little harder, I think, because you know they're white. So unlike the attacks are still going on against East Asians in New York all the fucking time, they also get underreported, which is gross. You know, now this is going on against Russians, and why is it acceptable?
Right. Right.
I find that very like we wouldn't have done if there were. I mean, there are Iraqi populations and Afghani populations in the U.S. Like if that was going on, it would be unacceptable. Doesn't mean it wouldn't happen, but it'd be unacceptable. And here, I feel like it's being accepted. Besides, you have a couple outlets speaking out against it, both from places like the New York Post, which is right wing, and then places like WAPO, which is left wing. I think that's what. WAPO is the anti-Russian hate. So, you know, these are mainstream outlets, but it does still feel like it's largely being ignored. It's like, okay, but people are dying in the Ukraine. And it's like, oh, okay, but those are different things. We can still say that's bad and also not, you know, splatter paint on a Russian community theater. I know that was Canada, right. But okay, the equivalent. Then a restaurant in London. London has a huge Russian population, and I think a lot of that is actually like super rich Russians. This isn't like necessarily the poor working class diaspora. Like this is because they are very rich, many of them. And a receptionist at a Russian restaurant in London, who has not to be named for fear of further abuse, said his place is receiving 30 to 40 hate messages a day, mostly from Britons and Americans. He passes the worst ones on to the police. Sorry, I don't feel very good. And that's from the Washington Post.
Yeah.
And I think that's all. I got too kind of angry doing this.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? After these, I'm just getting too upset because this shouldn't be happening. And it's like, this is now becoming the norm where people in power, banks, tech, these groups in power, they control so much of our lives. And if they just decide that you're on the wrong side of an issue, and sometimes that side of an issue is your ethnicity, your nationality, right? That's all this is.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll cut off your well-being. It's horrible what we're doing to the Russians. I know that's not what people are really concerned about right now, but that's what we have control on. Like we have that control where people are losing their and you think the oligarchs and Putin's inner circle and the military, you think they're gonna feel this pinch? Like, no, not really. They're gonna be fine. It's the average person, and this can go one of two ways. And this will be the last geopolitic thing I say before we go back to the art. When you sanction the hell out of a country, one, they can rise up against their leaders for putting them, you know, they can make that logical leap, which isn't a hard one to make. It's like, well, the West, you know, in this case, the West is doing this against us because of what you're doing. We're going to get rid of you, and it's going to be bloody, in a place like Russia, right? There's not going to be some color revolution in a country like Russia. It's not going to be a nonviolent protest. It's going to get violent. More likely, though, what would happen, in my opinion, is that the people would say, and remember, this is a country that is heavily, is it propagated or propagandized? They see a lot of propaganda. That's one of the things the Russians are really good at, is propaganda. How evil the West is, how they've done this to you, and they're going to say, you know what? I'm suffering right now because of what the West is doing. I'm going to support because they're the ones who have my backs, right? Remember that they're coming at this from a restricted society, propaganda heavy society. And I think it's really fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
Because the evil people, like Vladimir Putin, a really evil fucking person, is going to get more and more support. I think the more that we hurt the average Russian person, and that's what we're doing, which is really, and we have no moral authority to do that. What our government has done to people all over the world.
Yeah.
So,
well, we're not learning from the mistakes of our past. We've done this before, where it's like we're in some kind of conflict with some nation, and so instead of focusing our efforts towards the ones who are actually committing the atrocities, it starts spreading to the average person who just happens, whose only crime is simply that they happen to have the same nationality as that country. And when that happens, like, we're missing out on so much beauty, because I mean, a lot of wonderful, beautiful things have come out of Russia. So it's just because a certain organization feels a certain way, now everyone else around that in that community has to miss out on something.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, this is why you have to fight back against this, because once the narrative and I think this happened during the summer of 2020, during what we call the Great Awakening, right? Not that we coined that term, but I thought I was going fucking crazy, because the narrative I was seeing everywhere was, looting and rioting is okay. Racism is the real virus. For months we had been told the COVID was a real virus, but no, racism are like all this crazy. It's okay to tear down statues. It's okay to rename schools. It's okay to, burn books, more or less. And I was like I felt crazy, because I was scared to speak out on a lot of it. And I did start to sometimes. I did some satirical pieces, but I was like, the narrative became, if you weren't with us, you're against us, or you shut the fuck up because you're what you say doesn't matter. You're not part of this. And that's what happens with like once PayPal does something, Venmo has to do something, and once McDonald's does something, Coca-Cola has to do, and like they'll have to do things, and like this affects real fucking people. Yeah. I mean, in our own case, like the Georgia voting rights bullshit, which people didn't even read or understand, when the All-Star game for baseball got moved to Denver, who do you think was affected? Who do you think was going to be working at the baseball stadium in Atlanta? Yeah. I would think it would be overwhelmingly black people. Yeah. And then who thinks working the baseball stadium in Denver? Probably not nearly as many black people. Right. And it takes away business and opportunity and all this shit. And Coca-Cola, this multi-gajillion-dollar corporation, gets to say, well, we stood up and did the right thing. Yeah. It's like, and they get to have that in their social credit system. Oh. So, the reason why I brought this topic up to talk on our podcast, this kind of Russian cancellation shit, because like you have to stand up against this narrative, and sometimes it's a hard thing to do. Like, it's not always popular to start saying, well, these people are victims too in a different way. Like, no, this is not what we're about. These are our values. You have to stick to your values. You can still denounce things, but not everything is one-sided. And I am afraid that everything just comes down to our bullshit system of Republican and Democrat, and people just look at everything in a binary. And that's why it's like Ukrainian good, Russian bad. It's like, yeah, but in terms of the military invasion, sure. But what about the people? What about the people who have no say, who have less say than you do as an American or Canadian or a Brit? Yeah. Choosing their leaders and have anything to do with, international affairs. And it's really gross to me that so much of this is coming from, the enlightened West. Yeah. Like, we're supposed to be better than this. And I don't know why I think that. We're fucking not. Like, we're supposed to be better than this. Yeah. When has, canceling symphonies ever been a good point in society?
Right. Yeah, nothing positive will come out of this.
No, nothing positive comes out of taking away movies from film festivals and canceling pianists. Like that's it's I don't know. It just bothers me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But
Right.
so
Anything
hopefully
else on this?
no. I think I've said. I think we've covered. Because I mean, like, all it was. It's just multiple instances of the same thing, pretty much.
It's the same thing, and a lot of them don't even have. They don't have an It's just besides a couple here and there where it's like, oh, he's a friend of Putin. Okay, maybe there's a little more, but it's like we just don't think it's appropriate at this time.
Right.
It's like, well, fuck. You can make that argument anytime.
Yeah.
Like that. I think there needs to be a little more of a burden there, but
yeah.
I didn't want to see. Didn't they cancel Dostoevsky somewhere?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Let me see. That's what I wanted to look up before we moved on to the next topic. I just want to see if that actually did happen, or maybe yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. Italians can't do anything fucking right. Italian university cancels Dostoevsky course over Ukraine crisis. Like, what does that have to do with? I mean, the guy, he died in the 1800s. Mm-hmm. Let me see. University. So this is from, Maya Dean. I don't know exactly what this, but anyway, the University of Milan, Bicocca canceled lectures on Russian novelist and cultural icon Fyodor Dostoevsky for political reasons, in quotes, in light of the Ukraine crisis and rising tensions between the West and Moscow. Okay, so look, this is from a fucking university, right? And I'm gonna read this, and then we can move on. Dear Professor, this is a letter he got. This morning, the Provost for Academic Affairs informed me of the Provost's decision to postpone your course. The goal is to avoid any form of disagreement, especially internal ones, as this is a moment of great tension. Any form of disagreement. It's a fucking university. That's like supposed to be the point of like any disagreement. And okay, I guess that's really it.
Yeah,
and I'm biased because I love Dostoevsky. I think Brothers Karamazov is a gorgeous book. So is Crime and Punishment is one of my favorite books. They're amazing stories, but I don't know. I feel like I'm losing my shit.
Yeah.
All right, you want to move on?
Yeah, you want to talk about the Sam Elliott thing?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I just watched Tombstone recently. It's going to be on my next list. Yeah, I was watching almost all Oscar nom movies or 2021 movies.
Yeah.
And I didn't have one for a time. There weren't any free. And I was like, I'll throw on something else on my list and throw in Tombstone, which you know what that is, right? Yeah,
it's that Western from the 90s.
Early 90s about Wyatt Earp. It's a very... I liked it. It's a good movie. It's a really good movie. It's almost fun to watch a movie. Like, I think it's 1993. It's very Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like, you could see like a big Western Hollywood movie where Kurt Russell, who I love, amazing accent, one of my favorite accents in the game. He's playing Wyatt Earp, and he's like, his brother gets shot, and he's like in the rain with blood all over his hands. He's like spinning in the, in the rain. And then there's, lots of elongated looks of desire and passion, and just some really good one-liners. I don't know. It's a good movie. It's fun, but I feel like they don't really make movies like that anymore. Like you could. I think that's maybe I saw such a discrepancy because I watched like several movies from 2021, and then I threw in a movie from 1993, and it's like they don't make movies like this. Yeah, where he's running out to the like there's a fucking firefight going on. He runs out to the middle of the creek with guns blazing, and somehow they're not hitting him. And I don't know. It's fun though. It's a good movie.
Oh, I'll check it out. I love me some Kurt Russell. So.
I love Kurt Russell. He's great.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so we're gonna discuss. So I bring that up because Sam Elliott is in that, of course. Also, Sam Elliott he looks the exact same as he does in 1993 versus I think the last thing I saw him in was Star is Born. I don't know if I saw him in something after that. Probably Star is Born.
All that red meat's keeping him. I mean, he's always been old, but it's keeping him like preserved in that old.
He eats a lot of red meat.
Isn't he the voice for like the Quality Beef Council or something like that? Like he's like a spokesperson for something, right? Like,
oh, yeah, you know what? That wouldn't surprise me. I feel like I can hear it.
Yeah.
I love him, and he's in a couple scenes in The Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
He's like the main narrator guy or something, right?
Yeah, he's the narrator. That's right. The dude abides. So anyway, he shit on Power of the Dog, calling it like gay. Calling it gay. I mean, technically it is. It's super gay. Have you seen Power of the Dog?
No, I have not. It seems like I'll probably check it out at some point, but it seemed like one of those movies where critics loved it, whereas like regular people thought it was just kind of boring and kind of pretentious and whatever.
Well, I don't know. What am I? Am I a critic or am I a regular person? I think I'm a tweener because I write a lot of. I mean, technically, I'm a critic. I'm not a professional critic, but technically, I'm a critic. But
very unprofessional
makes
critic.
me. Yeah. So and sometimes, I actually really like when a movie has a big discrepancy, and I don't know what the Power of the Dog is on Rotten Tomatoes. I can check because then sometimes I side with the critics, sometimes I side with the audience. Sometimes I split the difference. I don't know. Let me check real quick. Yeah, critics did love this movie, and I don't. I can't always tell what's a better barometer. Yeah, so I mean it's not a huge 94.79. It's not huge. Green Knight had a pretty big discrepancy.
Yeah,
pretty big difference between critics had it much higher. Sometimes I do feel like, and I don't know if this is fair, right?
No.
But sometimes I feel like the critic scores are higher, just like if it's a woman director, or the Green Knight had a non-white lead playing a traditionally white role. Like I like both movies. I give Power of the Dog, I think, at 84, 85. I thought it was really good. It is super gay, but that's the point.
No.
But the thing is with Sam Elliott, what I didn't understand, I read this. I didn't realize that One Power of the Dog was a novel from the 60s, and I didn't know anything about the novel, but I read that it's very close to the movie. Like the movie was very, what's it called? Faithful, I guess, a faithful adaptation, which means the novel would be super gay.
Yeah.
And like, why would Sam Elliott get up in arms about that? Right. Like if it was.
One of the things that he said was when he was talking about the director, Jane Campion, and she's from New Zealand. And I believe they shot the film in New Zealand.
Yes.
And so he seemed bothered.
And called it Montana.
Yeah. And he seemed bothered by this idea of someone from New Zealand claiming to understand the American West and like the American Western the mythology around it. I mean, I think it's kind of a superficial criticism to hurl, but I think though that people were misconstruing a little bit what he was saying. They seem to just kind of dive right into, well, he's a grumpy old white man and he's criticizing a woman director for directing a movie about gay cowboys. Of course, and it's like, no, I don't think that was his thing, because he actually compliments Jane Campion. He goes, yeah, I love her work. She's a brilliant director.
He does after he
tries to move,
I mean, he goes, what the fuck does this woman? She's a brilliant director, by the way. I love her work, previous work. But what the fuck does this woman from down there, New Zealand, know about the American West? Like, I'm going to be honest. I disagree, and I think we are always against this kind of stance, because he's doing the identity argument that we are always against when it's reversed, where it's well, what does a white guy know about making a story about, let's say, genderqueer black teens or something, right? No, that shouldn't matter. It should be is the quality of the art good? Is it like, and her movie it's a good movie. I mean, if you want to say it's too gay, fine, but one, filming it in New Zealand and calling it Montana, I mean, how many movies take place?
I mean, all of
this like Sam. I was just about to, you're gonna say spaghetti westerns, right?
Exactly.
And Sorry, who was the Italian director who did all? Not Marconi. Who? The S. No, yeah, the S name. Sergio Leone. That's it.
yes.
Sergio Leone. Yeah, like how many movies were shot in Italy and Spain? Actually,
Yeah.
a lot of westerns were shot in Almeria in Spain.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like Sam Elliott would know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's a western. So this seemed like a really misinformed and kind of maybe he just kind of said off the cuff. But like, I think if he thought this through, it's really bad criticism. And like, okay, you shouldn't like. It looks like Montana, as far as I know. I've never been to Montana. I want to go. It looks beautiful, but so is New Zealand. Like that, if it's passing, if it looked like Norway, okay, then you're calling it Montana. Well, I don't know if that's the best example. Okay, if it was you're in the Sudan and you're calling it Montana, well, I don't know if that's the best example either. Fuck, doesn't matter. Okay, that was obviously a bad directorial decision.
If it was bad enough to take it out to take him out of the movie, I can be like, yeah, that doesn't look like Montana. Don't tell me that's Montana.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, fine, fair criticism, but it's he doesn't seem to be.
But I've seen this movie and it doesn't. I thought it was Montana. I was surprised it wasn't Montana.
So somebody on Twitter gave what I think is a pretty interesting clarification of what Sam Elliott is saying. I think it's a little too generous, but I think it does kind of bring in some other themes. And we don't have to get too deep into it. But this person, they even say on their this is Woko Harem. Some person I've never. They don't have a large.
Wait, what? Wait.
Woko Harem.
Woko Haram.
Boko Haram. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I've made. That was my name for a little.
Oh,
like
really?
Like Boko Haram, Woko Haram.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's a joke on that. Yes, that was one of my nicknames.
Oh, okay. Well, they even say in their Twitter bio, leftish, liberal. So they're not. This is not a conservative defending, a grumpy old white man. But he makes they make kind of an interesting point here. Again, I think it's a little too generous of what Sam Elliott's saying, but it's interesting. So what he says is, the point Sam Elliott is making here will be misunderstood by most. It's not that there wasn't homosexuality in the Old West. It's that the attempt to be revisionist has gone from expanding our sense of what was real to actively replacing it, and that is a fundamental shift. It's not one driven by artists as much as culture writers. The imperative to deconstruct or subvert all narratives isn't just unproductive in and of itself. It often is just flat out incorrect. That's what I think Elliott was reacting to, the evisceration of the American myth. I think he's probably looking a little too deeply into it, but I think it's kind of an interesting thing. I can kind of see where this person's getting is kind of coming to that conclusion for what Sam Elliott is saying. It's sort of like, but Sam Elliott seems like a kind of guy who's just kind of shooting from the hip.
I think he shot from the hip, and so if you want like the criticism I could see. If he when he says it's West, he compared it to a Chippendale show where it's like, okay, what would really happen, or the novel, it was a lot more, the homosexuality was a lot more like subdued, which I thought it was in the movie, to be honest, but and this made it really kind of in your face. Okay, I mean, would these guys not, I don't remember like the volleyball scene in Top Gun is a homoerotic scene. Like I didn't get that feeling in this movie at all because it was repressed, and I don't know. I found it. I think I love Sam Elliott. I think he's shooting from the hip. He didn't think it through. He kind of did the thing that I think he would argue against, right? Like if he was in a movie where I don't know, he was playing someone who's not traditionally white, or he was directing a movie that had non-white old men actor. Like, I'm against that.
It could very well be also a generational thing as well. Like he comes more from like an old school rugged thing, and maybe you just didn't see that. So this reminds me a little bit. There's a quote from a director. I can't remember, but it was a director who worked like sort of like the golden age of Hollywood. And I read an interview with him. I want to say it was. Hold on one sec. I'll pull it up real quick. Sure. Howard Hawks. I think it was Howard Hawks. And anyway, this director was being interviewed in the 70s, and he was talking about how he thought that tough guys in 70s movies weren't genuinely masculine. He's like, no, look, you know who's genuinely masculine? It's John Wayne. It's guys like that. And he was criticizing Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood, who I think are fucking badasses. Like, how can you get more tough than that? But it's funny. It's like, like here's some guy who's known for doing tough westerns decades ago. I'm like, no, this new generation, this isn't what Western men are supposed to be about. What I was doing, that's what Western men. That's the true thing. I wonder if it's kind of an example of that. Of like, no, decades ago, that's what the Western was about. This person gets it all wrong. Which, I mean, again, I'm not siding with Sam Elliott, but I can be like, all right, I can see the generational shift. I can see why he.
I would see it a little more, to be honest, if this wasn't based off a book.
Yeah.
Like, I thought if it's like, oh, of course, a new Western comes out, and of course it's about gay men, right? Like, I could see that argument more. Which, in case it's like, all right, I mean, you can make whatever you want, and there is a gay Western, Brokeback Mountain, but like, there's lots of movies like with John Wayne and Clint Eastwood and Westerns like that, Tombstone, and I don't know, something different, right?
Yeah.
But furthermore, it's a book that allegedly was adapted very faithfully, and the movies adapted faithful to that. So I don't really get the criticism. I think he was just shooting from the hip.
But I do not think he was being a racist, homophobe, grumpy old white. I think it's just sort of like, he's just being cranky. I do too.
And I don't throw, and I always, I only throw words around like, because those words are really fucking impactful. Racist, homophobe, transphobe, Islamophobe, whatever. Like, there may be some fucking evidence of that. And I know I don't see that here. I couldn't imagine that even someone like Sam Elliott, he's a Western actor and all of that, but he's still in Hollywood. He still does like mainstream shit.
I think he lives like in Malibu or Santa Monica. It's not like he's living in like
he's
in a
not in
Montana,
Wyoming. He was in a Star Is Born, right? Like that's a big mainstream movie. So I don't know. You can criticize whatever. I don't think it's a great criticism, but whatever. Move on.
Yeah.
I don't think Power of the Dog though is gonna. I don't think it should win Best Picture. I'm trying to. So next week, because we're gonna wrap up, right?
Yeah.
Let's do our big Oscars because when it comes out, the Oscars is the Sunday after. No, not this weekend, not next weekend, but the weekend after that is the Oscars. But this episode will come out next week. So next week's episode will come out the weekend after that. So let's do our big Oscars app. I'm trying to watch as many as possible. We can fill out our picks if you want to do that on the show or before the show.
Okay.
Just talk about those movies, whichever ones you're able to see. I've seen a bunch over the last 2 weeks. I'm probably going to do King Richard. I want to do Tragedy of Macbeth, Licorice Pizza, and Belfast. I want to get those 4 in before the awards.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Sounds good. All right. Well,
cool. Well, thank you everyone for checking in on Ben during this difficult throat time.
Be nice to your fellow Russians.
Yes.
And Ukrainians, of course. Pray for the Ukrainians.
You can be a little mean to your fellow Putins, though. You can pick on them.
Pray for the Ukrainians, but be nice to the Russians too, unless they're like anti-Ukrainians, and like, of course, not them, but like the regular ones. There's people. There's people.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
All right, Ben. Stay reckless, and I hope your throat stays reckless too.
Thanks, Joe. Stay reckless.
All right.